This is brought to you by the Gjgrc Grassroots Collective, a progressive organization in the new African independence movement that cultivates revolutionary transfer culture, liberating the minds through awareness and education, protecting and training our people while fostering unity as stated in the Code of Umoja. Welcome to the Gjgrc Grassroots Collective Dialogue Session.
Greetings, everybody. My name is Abdullah Ghazi, National Chairman of the Gjgrc Grassroots Collective. Today, we have a special guest. The topic is about solidarity, a united front. And today, we got a special guest from the Brown Berets. Can you please tell us about yourself, comrade, and your organization?
Yes, and thank you for even bringing this topic into discussion about bringing solidarity and unity, because that's what it's all about. It's real hard to do anything in our communities if we ain't working collectively. That's across ethnicities, genders, age groups, financial incomes, and so forth. My name is Joe Gonzalez. Mexica and Lipana Pache, and I have a couple of other tribes from my ancestors also in me. But and I'm part of Brown Berets. Los Brown Berets, they're on a national level under the leadership of La Mesa Nacional de Brown Berets. Also, I'm an Aimster, American Indian Movement. I'm also Secretary of Intercommunal Relations with the United Panther Movement. And I'm also with the Partido de la Raza Unida Party. And for those that don't know, that's our Raza's third. We're not following with the two-feathered bird that flocks together. It's a third party system, political system. Of course, we don't have the strength that we need yet to actually do many things, but as y'all with Free the Land, Free the Land, Free the Land, there in the South, I'm all for that. But where Chicanos are fighting for the same thing in Aslan. So that's one thing to take into consideration. But mostly, I'm an advocate for the peoples. I speak for those that do not speak. And we are vanguards in the community to observe, serve, and protect the community as a whole. And this is important, like we're having a conversation, like bringing unity together. The important thing about that is that there's strength in solidarity. Of course, many of us are in organizations that are, slim in numbers. Not very many of us in specific locations, but collectively as a whole, we are a mass of peoples, organizing peoples, revolutionary-minded, ideological thinkers that want to make change, that know that change needs to be made. And how are we going to do that by ourselves? Well, that's not so easy. So bringing this kind of conversation or this kind of collective unity, and I invited some people, and I know it was last of the moment, and there's a lot of graduations and whatnot going on. So like probably people don't have much time, but that's another thing too. We have to sometimes make time out of our busy schedules and our busy life styles to come together to figure out how we can collectively work together to actually make change in our communities, or barrios, or neighborhoods, or whatever you want, whatever, even ranches and tribal lands also, what the white man wants to call reservations. So I don't know you were saying to speak for 20 minutes. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna get tongue tied. But what I try to do is promote an influence to inspire other individuals to keep on seeking change, to keep on fighting, to keep on doing what's right in this negative world that we live in. And then there's a lot of things we can create change on. There's a lot of things we need to draw attention to. It's not just one specific fight. And what is happening, it's not like you got to be in for the whole 9 innings. What we're doing today is going to be a lifetime of critical change and thought processes. I mean, a lot of the people we are inspired by are from the late 60s. And, you know, get this, it's 2024 and a lot of us are still facing the same struggles in our communities. And what are we prepared to do about it? I mean, to make physical change in the community, it's going to take the whole community. And I'm not going to leave anyone out in the community. And then with the understanding that some people you cannot work with. They're just not built up mentally in that structure of mind. But I would ask all of us, and I know you said speak for 20 minutes, but I'm more of a leave it open conversation, ask question, anybody else got something to say type of person. But I'm not trying to change the structure of your guys.
No, sir. You don't have to. No, you're not speaking for 20 minutes. It may last 20 minutes to 30 minutes. We're going to have some questions for you. And one question I have for you real quick is, and we have many. Let's take it back a little bit, okay?
Mm-hmm.
What year was you introduced to the movement? And can you tell us what influenced you to make you want to join the movement?
Well, it's kind of hard to say that, but actually, for instance, a brown beret, or actually getting my mind decolonized and moving forward into unity of the masses of the peoples. It's still young. I'm still fresh. I'm a baby. It's been 3 years. I'm 53 years old now. But I grew up in East Los Angeles, and I've been a product of the environment all my life. And I've been an activist all my life, and without even knowing it. So it's kind of hard to say. But as far as gathering the base knowledge of what I have, and the base core of the peoples that I have working with me, it's been not just but 3 years. Matter of fact, June makes it 3 years to be exact.
Yes, sir. Minister of Information, go ahead with your question.
What gave you the niche to go forward within the movement? I'm very curious about that, just because you did dig deep about the people not speaking for themselves and that sort of thing, but specifically, what drove you to that, deep down, if that makes sense?
Yeah, and I can answer that. To be clear and concise about that specific question, because I didn't answer the whole question clearly. Thank you. What inspired me is seeing the struggle in the peoples and the lack of organization, movers and shakers. Like they say, there can't be a movement if no one's moving. And I've seen stuff staying stagnant and idle. And I was like, whoa, there's so much more we can get into. So what it really inspired me at first was the struggles of the community. I got invited to an event in Denver, Colorado. It was a Chicano get-together for La Mesa Nacional. And of course, I wasn't a member then, but I seen the lack of participation of individuals within the community to actually pay attention to what's happening in the community. And that's what inspired me initially. And I waited to go to East Los Angeles for the Chicano moratorium to actually become a Brown Beret. But in that event, I met AIM, I met Brown Berets, and I met Partido de la Raza Unida Party. And I was like, wow, there's actually people that are concerned about our peoples, just as the new Africans are concerned. La Raza is concerned also. And over a period of time, I've gained knowledge to like, hey, to make effective change, we're all in the same struggle. Why not be working together towards kind of like what we're having today, working collectively together to share a thought, to share a word, or in Spanish it's called palabra, and having that open platform to make that change. But what inspired me is the need of the community. We got the fentanyl, opioid crisis. We got murdered and missing indigenous people, or just peoples in general, even if they're indigenous or not. The sex trafficking. We got kids in cages still. We got police brutality happening in all our communities. And then we can keep on going on and on and on. And with this reform or that thing to draw attention to. I mean, and then we have our Palestinian brothers and sisters that are being massacred. And some people say, well, you need to focus in your community. You need to focus in your hometown, or, and then things that you can handle. Yeah, but being a humanitarian, we have to take in consideration all humanity. Like, what are we doing? Like, are we just talking loud, saying nothing? Are we just, going to be people over there in the corner, like, taking a selfie, like you all about something, you did something? Like, nah, if you don't have it in your heart to have boots on the ground, and of course, with that being said, not just boots on the ground is vital. I mean, we need our dogs, soldiers, and soldierettes out there on the front line, but that's not the makeup of everyone. Some people are more tech savvy. Some people are elderly, can't be on the front line, but we all have something to benefit off of one another. And when we work collectively together to how do you say, mend a strong impact of change. And so I got inspired by the need for a strong impact of change. If that answers your question, Carmen.
Yes, sir.
I would say yes, it does, and I just want to say thank you for that. Respect. So thank you once again. Thank you.
All power.
You brought up being an activist in your early days. I heard the word activist. Do you remember any of the situations and cases you was an activist for that made you really want to go out there and, put yourself out there as an activist? Do you remember any of those situations and events that you was an activist for?
Yes, most definitely. I think it started on my early years. Matter of fact, I used to get paid to walk kids to school, and then like $1 and stuff, and a candy bar and stuff, so they wouldn't get harassed in the neighborhood. That it started like off way back in those days, and then I as an activist too in the community, like I seen elderly people that couldn't get out there and cut their grass. I would go out there and help them clean up their yard and stuff like that. And then then you get to like more of a thing where like, hey, there's people hungry. I'm a father of many daughters, and like my daughters would always bring friends home, like, hey, Dad, their mom doesn't have nothing to eat. Can we send a little care package? Oh, sure, we can send a care package. Oh, well, now the mom doesn't have no place to stay. It even got to the point where I had to put three campers in my backyard to house the unhoused. And then I ended up having to turn my garage into like a 3-bedroom apartment. Of course, it wasn't like built up and framed up, but like with tarps and stuff. to house bigger families. So like it goes back to like, what are we really doing? I mean, we can store treasures here on this miserable earth, or we can store treasures in the spiritual realm of actually doing for the peoples. So it's kind of like they say, paying it forward. So I guess as an early activist, I was just paying it forward, not really realizing what I was doing until after the fact. If that's a clear enough statement.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's very good information. I mean, that's very honorable what you did in your early stages. And I think that's something that a lot of people would like to know that you probably never really shared with nobody before.
Yeah.
And I would like to add on to what you said about less talk and more implementation. There's a lot of people that's saying, all power to the people and help oppressed people, but it's what they do, it's their actions that really validates if they're a real revolutionary or not. Can I ask you the question? What do you consider a real revolutionary in this modern time?
A revolutionary is an educated sister or brother that takes the time to apply themselves to learn and to teach what they learn. So a good leader and a good revolutionary leader is to teach others what they've learned along the way. And of course, I'm kind of a knucklehead. I don't know everything, but what I do is pay attention to what's what and who's who and what's affecting who. So as a revolutionary, first and foremost, and that's what I consider myself, a revolutionary Chicano nationalist for the nation of Aztlan, similar to the New Africans for that free the land nation in the South, in the 5 states, which I support. And then I got some kind of like a little bit of talk back from my indigenous peoples. They say, well, that was indigenous lands to begin with. Well, I agree with that too, but it doesn't mean that they can't correlate and work together. So, what we build is for the masses. It can never be no I, me, and this and that. No, it's whatever we do is not for us. It's for the peoples that are going to follow us. They could be our children, our grandchildren. I have one of my daughters, fortunately she came on today. That was kind of cool. I don't really get that much. But what we can do as revolutionaries and what we need to focus on as revolutionaries is education. I mean, I don't sit in 5 different political education classes every week plus for nothing. And I think that if we gain accurate knowledge, we're able to have a better understanding of what it is to be a revolutionary. And I'm proud to call myself a Chicano revolutionary nationalist, if that's sufficient there.
That was a very, very good answer. And a matter of fact, I didn't expect you to even say that, but it was on time. I'm happy that I have my Minister of Information and my spokesman on here because they're currently right now in our Liberation School political education. And I preach education, education, education. And sometimes they look at me like, man, you crazy. Are you a revolutionary fanatic or something? No, it just takes education. It starts with education.
Yeah.
I would like you to say in detail, and you already said it, but even add more emphasis to it, please. What is the importance of education in the revolutionary movement?
Well, a New African comrade told me we must teach, we must educate the uneducated and re-educate the miseducated. So now we got a lot of people that have different concepts, different ideologies, and they one thinks this way, one thinks that way. They're left, they're right. I don't know where they're going. Some of them are switch hitters. Anyway, what is directly important is to share the knowledge that we get and to continue learning. Like, I mean, like our brain is just like another, like a muscle. You know, you want to be working out when you're building yourself up. Well, you can build your brain up in the same aspect. Like, it's just another organ. It's just another tool. Excuse me. And I think when we educate ourselves, now there's different aspects of that. There's hand-to-hand combat. There's the militant side, and then there's the educated side. And I think they relate to strength of an individual. But let us not forget, our tongue is our strongest weapon. And that right there, and then, like, I'm not saying I know everything. I tell people I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I'm still in the shed. But it's our tongue that makes change, because and then we have to do it by applying actions. You cannot be one of those people that say, "Do as I say, not as I do," or like, "Hey, move over there," and you're sitting down. No, you're going to have to be moving with the peoples. And we don't need people to be walking in front of us. We don't need people walking behind us. We need people walking shoulder to shoulder alongside one another. And that right there is going to make revolutionary change. Go ahead, if that answered.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I would like to add on to what you also said about you had a little problem so far as confusion with Indigenous. I think you said the Indian movement, the Indigenous movement, when you talked about the sharing of the land in the South. Number one, I am a New African revolutionary nationalist. We made a video the other day talking about what a New African is, because a lot of people in this modern time does not know what a New African is. A New African can also be an indigenous Indian, because we have a lot of people of color that was Indians. A lot of Indians were black too, as well, extremely dark skinned. There's some tribes that was, but we're not gonna talk about and debate all that. But there was dark skinned Indians, and also there was people that came from this ship that integrated with the Indians and fought with them as well. So far as the Seminole Indians, and they got together, had empires together, and took over like South Carolinas and in Florida as well, side by side, lived together. We are not talking about it all so far as when it comes to New African of having any problem with indigenous Indians or the Mexicans or anything to that nature. We consider y'all guys as one of us. That's what we consider, and that needs to be set clear. That needs to be clear. That's the importance of dialogues like these, because there's a lot of misinformation and COINTELPRO that the government does on us to make us fight one another and make us think that we're against each other and gotta split the land again, like something like the Black Panther movie, the Indians fighting the black guys, the Africans, Wakanda. This is not this type of party. So, I just wanted to add a little bit of emphasis on that, and hopefully we can foster more of a relationship with one another, where we can get more of these circles and educate each other on the diplomacy between us. And it's not that type of party at all whatsoever.
Yeah,
we got to make that clear, because we view y'all as the same as us as well, even though it's different tribes, of course, and y'all guys got your own culture, but it's still one of the same. And let me just add in real quick, agents of repression, when the government went at us, the Indian movement, the indigenous Indian movement, American Indigenous Movement, right? AIM, what's it called, right? What is it called? AIM?
Yes, American Indian Movement, AIM.
American Indian Movement, I'm sorry. American Indian Movement, which is the AIM. and also the Brown Berets and everything to that nature, how the government went to war with us. It's a very great book. It's expensive right now, but I got the PDF file for free, and it shows, how they went at us. But go ahead, Mr. Gonzalez. And
Well, yeah,
I got a question after that.
Yeah, COINTELPRO, and I see somebody has their hand up, but COINTELPRO is as much alive today as it was back in those days. And when I mentioned there's the 5 states in the South, because I also do a lot of work and Kevin Prophecy with the New African Broadcast Association is a good friend of mine. I mean, I'm already hip to it. I'm already on board with the 5 states in the South. But that's what I had mentioned too, that we have to recognize that initially, all this is native land. And as long as we have that respect for that, then we're able to move forward, so because we're all oppressed peoples. And as oppressed peoples, we got to help each other. Like, I mean, what are we doing if we don't? I mean, what are you going to really accomplish? But anyway, I think 2 people have their hands up. Let me be quiet.
All right. Minister of Information was first, and then we have Veronica second.
Well, honestly, it's just more of a statement. I just want to say, I have much love and respect, for the Brown brothers and sisters, and just because of the simple fact of I educate myself on understanding, different cultures and different backgrounds of it, and I'm just going to say this, and correct me if I'm wrong. When you have, the African descents, when you have the Mexicans, the natives, and that sort, it's almost like we have the same sort of the common struggle, of colonization. If if I'm wrong, please correct me, but it's the same understanding, So, and if we understand it as the people, then why should we have to fight? Why should we have to separate, and sort of coming together, So and I really believe that this is good for us, and so why not work together? Why not come together as one? Because it's important. And to come to think about it, nowadays it's the same thing that it was 50 years ago when you had the Black Panthers and the Brown Berets, back in California and Oakland and East Los Angeles. I just wanted to say that.
Yes, sir. We have another hand, and we're gonna let you talk real quick, Veronica. Did you have your hand up?
I did, yes. I just wanted to say that I really appreciate how you touched on the definition for what is a New African. And you are absolutely right in the sense that, Brother Joe, you used the term revolutionary Chicano nationalist, and that there are similarities, with the Chicano people and New African people as well. Joe, could you go a little bit deeper into the definition of a Chicano or a Chicana for those who may not understand the term?
When we're talking about what it is to be Chicano, now we have to, always take in consideration our brothers and sisters and our two-spirited brothers and sisters, however they want to identify themselves. So going into that, what we are is children of the earth. So a lot of us identified that because being, and it's not just if you were born in the United States, especially if you're indigenous. Like I said, I'm Apache and Mexica. I wasn't accepted by the Americas, and I wasn't accepted in Mexico. I was kind of considered like, oh, you're different. So we kind of created our own identity to reflect on who we are as a peoples. but we are just children of the earth. We were always here and will always be here. And they tried to take most and erase most of our history. And that's why people have so much confusion of knowing who they are, because history has been erased for some time now to like confuse us. And then they came up with the whole thing. Well, like I heard her mentioned earlier, like black and brown working together. I mean, I look at it more than that. I look at it black, red, brown, white, and so forth, and working together. That's going to make change. But as far as Chicanos, the identity thing stems from our social, how do you say, our social upbringing, kind of like a hereditary balance of blood, of mixed blood, being some Spanish, being some Indian from one part, and or should I shouldn't say Indian, but indigenous from one part, indigenous from another part, indigenous from another part, and like we all have like 4 grandparents. So I mean, obviously they didn't grow up in the same neck of the woods. So now we have an identity thing to like trace who are we, where are we, and in order to understand where we're going or what we're doing now, we have to understand where we come from. And I mentioned this on one of the meetings this week or last week. It's really hard because some people get adopted, or some people never hung around their grandparents or got to meet their grandparents to even hear those stories. And it's sad, but it's true. But if we look into it and dive into it, and like with that educational part, like what pride will we have knowing who we are and who we come from? And that brings a sense of pride, and to reflects that what we're doing today has some meaning, because we are worthy of some ancestral knowledge and feelings and guidelines to how to apply ourselves to be examples. So I don't know, Sister Vero, if I missed anything on that. But I think just understanding who we are and who we come from, and just as the new Africans need a place to call home, so do Chicanos for Aslan need, and no, not need, we deserved a place to call home. Hermana?
Yes, absolutely. Gracias, hermano. And I would just add to that, the erasing or the attempt to, they couldn't kill us off, you know. So the next thing you do is you attack a person's identity. And so if we don't know who we are, then we're more likely to, believe the lies. And so for us as Chicanos, it is a political statement that we're making, that we understand the history of this land. You're not going to tell us who we are. We know who we are. We're not Hispanic and we're not Latinos. Those are umbrella terms to erase the indigenous part of us. And so, yeah, I just wanted to touch on that because I think a lot of times, people hear the word Chicano and, are hesitant to ask, what that means for us. And so I take it to mean as well that the new African people have taken their identity and also understanding the history as well, and created their own identity for who they are, and that they're not going to be thrown under some blanket statement as well, and have their identity erased and, just become part of this melting pot of Americans.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the answering question. Spokesman, go ahead with your question.
Peace and blessings, family. I have not a question, but I have a statement to add, and anybody can bounce off of it if want to. I believe, as I think we all believe, but it's freedom for everybody or it's freedom for nobody. And we must strategically, within our own communities, first implement diversity and inclusion, so that once we do it within our own confinements, we place ourselves into a position where we can do that on a mass level outside of our communities. So it doesn't matter if you're black, brown, red, yellow, or white. If we strategically implement it within our communities first and then learn to do it amongst other masses of people, that's what we can truly call a melting pot. And that's when we can all align ourselves as a human family, and we can live in a perfect harmonious society. And it's going to take for us to understand the importance of bridging the gap, and it starts at home in our communities. Oftentimes people talk about how can we advocate for you, but oftentimes we need for people to do the work within the communities before they can go and try bridging the gap in other communities outside of their own. So it's important that we see the strategic implication of infrastructure, institutions, and education within our communities, because as Brother Joe, as our comrade was explaining, we have to educate those who are uneducated and educate the miseducated. There's a lot of ignorance that goes on in our community, and oftentimes we have people who don't want to come together because of minor differences, but we have more in common than we do in differences. Unity is when we come together despite our differences. So it's very important and it's very strategic at this day and time that we do what's necessary by any means necessary. If we talk about freeing the land and being revolutionaries, feeding our people, housing the people, healing the people, and teaching the people. A lot of people talk a good game and have a lot of lip service, but not a lot of people put boots down to the ground to actually implement real work ethic. So at this day and time that we're in crunch time. We're in a very hot political atmosphere. Um, it's a recession going on, and it's been going on for a very long time. And people are tired and sick and tired, but we've been sick and tired for decades now.
Yes, sir. Very good answer. Well, great statement, spokesman. I'm gonna let Joe go real quick, and then his daughter with the next question. Go ahead, Mr. Gonzalez.
Okay, so it's not so much a question; it's kind of a follow up on that. And I take it a little bit farther than that and explaining it to the masses, because what we do is we're working for the masses. We're not, whatever we're doing is not an individual thing, but it starts within ourselves. We have to be ourselves right and correct. Then we take that to our family level. Our family has to be right and correct. And then we can take it to our community. And then we can take it to our city. And then we can take it to our county. Then we can take it statewide. And then we can take it nationally. And then, you can even think bigger than that, take it internationally. But it all starts within ourselves. And that's what I wanted to say. That's what I share with the peoples. It's all about get yourself right, get your mind right, get your heart right, get your spirits right. And then you'll be able to make effective change. Because like you kind of mentioned right there, comrade, people talk to talk, but what are they actually doing? So you can't say, you got to lead by example. You got to actually be out there. So there's a lot of benefits. Not everybody can be out there as active as some individuals in the streets with boots on the ground, but there is a good number of us that can. And what are we willing to do about it? And we have to be out there as boots on the ground, because that's what the community sees, and that's what inspires other people, especially right now. With all the communities getting together, with all the colleges getting together, and a stance for our Palestinian brothers and sisters across the world. There is so many people that are moving and active right now, and that are like what they want to call woke, or have been awakened to actually putting in work, then there hasn't been in quite some time. So it's up to us to foster the strength to be inclusive, like you said, of all peoples, because we all have something to offer. And that's all. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Santa, could you please go with your question? And I have a question after that.
Um, I don't think I'm going on with the question. I think that as an individual in this world, you know, standing with my boots down, I kind of lead by my dad's way of living. I'm not part of a Brown Beret. I'm not part of anything, but I stand by just doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And a lot of people don't live like that. And I kind of go, I listen to your guys' conversation on learning your history, learning this, learning that. But there's a lot of people that don't have the opportunity to learn their history because they don't have one. So I live by those people, you know, the people that don't have parents or grandparents or the generational, like I know my dad, you know, and it's very fortunate that I know my dad, and there's a lot of people that don't. So we have to be an example for those people, that we set the ground for them. We lay out the boots for them so that you know, a great example for the next generation. I was talking to my nieces. I'm not a mother, but I raise kids. But I was talking to them and I asked them what they wanted to be when they grew up. And they had no idea. Not one clue. So how do you expect them to lead what you guys are doing when they don't even know what they want to be when they grow up? And it's devastating that they don't have no direction or sense of function. I could go on and on, but you know, I live by the truth, and I'm very fortunate to know my mother, my father, my great grandmother, my great grandfather. I'm a very lucky individual, and I say I'm not lucky. I'm Lucky's daughter. It's just it's devastating to know that these kids, all we could do is learn for them and teach them, because it's up to us. And I say us as a 27-year-old. It's up to me and my fellow 27-year-olds or 30-year-olds or 40-year-olds to keep that generational knowledge going. So it's not your family, it's who you make your family. You know, like being a part of you guys is just, even being in this conversation, I feel very honored to be a part of this conversation and to even speak, because these kids, they don't know. They don't. So even if they have, you know, a grandfather like Joe or whoever else is in this conversation, are we really teaching them? Are we really spreading the word to them and putting it into them? Because it's among us. Is it really among them? Are they going to really transfer it into the newborns that just were born this year? Is it going to continue? It's up to someone my age and my sisters and my brothers. It's not about color. It's not about, you know, everything else that we're trying to learn, but it's about teaching and being a part of a community that oh my God, I could go on and on. My brain's scattering, I'm sorry. But I'm very honored to be a part of this conversation, because it just goes on and on, that, like how my dad said, are you awake? People say they're awake, but are you really? Are you really awake? And if you're awake, are you really teaching? What are you awake about? Like, what are you learning? What are you spreading? It's very important to get to these kids. I mean, we are doing the best that we can, but are we teaching these kids to do the best that they can? Are we teaching the kids all this stuff the history, you know? There's a lot of kids without parents. There's a lot of kids without any history, so they don't know what to learn. Are we teaching that? It's not color, it's not religion, it's not anything. It's human. Like, I don't know. It devastates me to know, like, what my kids go through and how much I could teach them and how much they will consume, you know, because they just want to get on the tablet. They don't want to listen to me. And they're like, oh, you're rambling, like I am now. But it's just about teaching the next generation. And I think I'm done.
Thank
Yes,
you,
ma'am.
Miha. Thank you, Miha, for sharing something This is like one of the first meetings or discussions you actually go on. Or this is probably the second. So thank you for taking time out of your day to share your time, and I really appreciate that. And that's all, comrades.
I would like to say, quickly, just piggybacking off of what she said, it's the duty of the revolutionary and the freedom fighter during this time to educate and take control of the streets, take control of the community, and educate our people and move them towards the direction that they're supposed to go. When we say AIM, it doesn't mean the same as the Indian movement. It means Autonomous AIM Infrastructure Movement, Autonomous Infrastructure Mission. And those are part of our initiatives that we do every single day. Education of the people, community safe zone initiatives, sustainable agriculture, emergency response, and all of these things we do daily. And this is what we practice. This is what we teach every single day within our political education course. Within everything we do, we are service-based, and we start from at home in our own communities. You don't have to be blood related to any of us for us to teach you these things, for you to understand who you are and how to be treated within this capitalist, imperialist, fascist construct. You just got to learn from the revolutionaries. This is the time for the revolutionaries to stand up and teach and lead. You should be going to your closest organizational structure that is doing this. There's a lot of progressive people on here, and it's an honor to be amongst everybody in here, which leads me to the next question for you, Joe. Mr. Gonzalez, what are you doing in your community? What type of events that you have, and what are you doing that will cultivate this type of activity for us to move forward and for people to liberate themselves?
Well, there's a lot of things I do because I'm more of a national type of person. But within the community that I'm in, that I felt that had a greater calling of attention to be drawn to is Southern Colorado, and I'm in Pueblo, Colorado now. Within the community, I have aligned myself and associated with myself in the 3.5 months that I've been here with harm reduction. We have a needle exchange, also condoms, and we pass out Narcan. We also go out in the community and pick up dirty needles with sharp containers and proper equipment. We're feeding the unhoused, which is really important. I even connected with Meals on Wheels and stuff. Like if I need to get sent so many meals to a certain thing, it's already there. I've worked with now they're saying that I can have a like Brown Beret headquarters and this new multi-million-dollar community center that's been built. So I'll have an office there, and I'm not just going to make it Brown Berets. I'm going to make it Brown Berets Partido de la Raza Unida Party and AIM all inclusive in that center. We're going to have a spot. We're working with land back. We're still fighting for water rights. Let me see what else. Oh, and then we're curbing like the whole fentanyl crisis. We're just trying to bring awareness and really push out that Narcan out there in the community because so many people are dying. I went to a meeting 2 days ago for a Peace and Dignity, an Indigenous run, a Peace and Dignity run, an Indigenous run that's ran from Alaska all the way to South America, where they have runners running from South America and then they have and then they have brothers and sisters running from Alaska south. And then I'm working also with murdered and missing Indigenous realm of things, but it goes way beyond that. It's not just murdered and missing Indigenous. Let's think about all the murdered and missing or missing people, and the whole sex trafficking crisis that's happening. Like so many of these youngsters are out there on fentanyl or blues or whatever they want to call it, just being targeted in the streets. There's a lot of things you can get into. I mean, and then making speeches and acquiring knowledge from the elders that were previously here doing work prior to me coming out here. So what I'm doing is just building community-based networking to like, hey, it's like sometimes people, that not saying that I'm a leader or anything, but like sometimes people just need somebody to inspire them to get it together. Like, hey, let's work together. Let's make things happen. Let's see how we're going to make critical change. So there's a lot of different things. Oh, and then as far as a job, I work as a carpenter. I'm very fortunate that the boss's sister is actually an organizer and a mover and a shaker in the movement too. So he kind of understands that like sometimes I'm not available to go to work. So I have kind of like, well, how would you say, an understanding from the boss and the crew that Joe is first and foremost a revolutionary, and I still have to work to survive. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That most definitely answered my question of the activities and the progressive things that you are doing right now. Let's move forward and go back to, can you tell me what is the importance of a united front in detail?
Well, I can say it like this clearly. There's an old story to it. You can get one wooden match and you can snap it between your fingers. But if you get 10 wooden matches, you're not going to snap it between your fingers. So there's strength in numbers. And we're not talking about quantity, we're talking about quality. We don't need everybody and their mama. We need bona fide, serious movers and shakers in the community to actually get things done. And a lot of people, I think kind of something that was mentioned earlier, they'll be more like, oh, a Facebook warrior. That's kind of like what I shouldn't say that term, but that's what I heard. Like a Facebook warrior. Oh, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this and that. No, if you're not actually out there, and don't go over there just to take a picture and say you was a part of something. If you didn't actually have no importance in making it and scheduling it and being there, and whether it's security, whether it's helping set up or clean up, or some kind of like boots on the ground effort, don't do that. Because people is like, it's almost like you could take a selfie of you passing out $1 to an unhoused person. Like that's going to make you feel better and it's going to make you look better. No, you're not doing it for the right reason. And most of the stuff that we do goes unnoticed. A lot of people ask me, do you get paid for what you do? No, I do not. I do it because it's in my heart and it's what's right. And I think we should keep that and keep that going and teach other people like, hey, it's not all about the dollar sign, because you're either doing it for the cause or the applause. And I prefer to say I'm gonna do it for the cause. And one last thing is, I think when our time is done, we have two deaths. The actual part of dying and in the spirit realm, but the second death is actually being forgotten, where your name doesn't get mentioned anymore. And that's like, I'm not all fine with that. You know what I mean? Like whatever I do, I want it to be a memory to for the, like I say, the next 7 generations. I don't want to do stuff that that's not meaningful. And we got to really be careful. As revolutionary activists, we're always under the camera light, or we're always in subject to be judged for our actions. But let us all keep on walking straight. Let us all keep on walking in line and focused on what positive change could really be. And that's all. Hopefully I was able to touch on what you asked.
Yes, sir. You touched on it perfectly. I like to piggyback off what you said real quick about, you said internet warrior, keyboard warrior. I call it virtual world revolution, armchair revolution. A lot of people in today's world is more content on being on social media than actually implementing and doing what they're supposed to do live and in person. Social media, the virtual world, it is a good element if needed for propaganda, marketing, promoting, and bringing awareness. But solely only using the internet is not going to get us free. It's not going to get us liberated. Can you go more into detail the importance and tell the people why they should leave the internet and not only be on the internet and actually get out there and implement?
Well, to clarify that, I think we brought that up in conversation earlier, and I bring it in conversation often. Social media is just a tool to bring awareness to the masses, and it's a good tool. I think when the whole COVID thing happened, I think a lot of people did switch over to social media for their networking, and it's an effective tool. But going on that is not going to tell you what's going on down on the city blocks, the sidewalks, and the boroughs, or in the barrios, or the neighborhoods, whatever you call them, wherever you come from. That knowledge is only attained by being out there present in the community, and that's a whole different soldier or soldierette. That's a whole different thing. But I think they're equally as important. Now, granted, social media or even Facebook is kind of like a good tool. And if we didn't have that, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation at the moment. But it's not the only effective tool. So I think there's, even in life, we have to all find balance. And you could be a revolutionary soldier all damn day, 24/7. But check this out. Even revolutionaries need a break. So you got to find that balance in life. I find it in nature, or I find it in music, to balance yourself, man, because you can get overwhelmed, and it kind of like gets tiresome. Because with people that have a big heart, obviously things that are happening across the world affect them and bother them. Why? Because they actually care. If you didn't care, then it wouldn't bother you. So, this, I guess, finding that balance, that's the key point in that. That's all.
Yes, sir. We have a hand raised. Veronica, could you please take your question?
Yeah, it wasn't so much a question, but I just wanted to add to what has already been said. So on the question related to what is a united front, I wanted to offer the definition from the Black Liberation Army, the BLA dictionary. And so we have unity, right? The working together of two separate entities. And then you have the United Front, which, as it states here, is a long-term alliance of social classes and groups, whether it be women, youth, workers, cultural, regional, and or political on a clear-cut political program. And so I think the distinction there is on a clear-cut political program. So you can have unity, which is the coming together, of two separate entities. People can come together, but the danger becomes we come together and then we leave separate. And so there's no next steps, there's no organizational structure. And I think of Kwame Ture and how he always reiterated the importance of belonging to an organization, and because this is where the work happens. You have to come together to struggle with each other, but it's behind closed doors that you do that, the actual analyzing of what worked, what didn't work, what are the next steps, who's doing what, the actual implementation of those next steps, so that it doesn't become a constant busybody work of attending marches and rallies. And how many times do we see that? You see that a lot on Facebook. There's something that's going to be out in the community, but there's no community there outside of the people that organize the event itself and the people most closest to them. So I think that's a big part of it is, yes, we come together, but we don't come together just for the sake of unity. We come together so that we can implement next steps, organize, and figure out how we're going to tackle these issues that are oppressing us as people.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Very good answer. As we just talked about the United Front, can we bounce back? And could you tell me, Joe Gonzalez, what is your definition of a vanguard party?
Oh, I can tell you that clearly. We are here to observe, serve, and protect our communities. So when we're talking about a vanguard, not something to be held in high esteem, like, oh, you're all about this, you're a bag of chips and stuff. No. If we have to be the ones that stand up for the voiceless and those that can't stand up for themselves, then we have to implement our strength in that. And it doesn't take just one person to be a vanguard. I've oftentimes, a lot of things we do on our own. We ain't got like 10 people around us. That's fine. But a vanguard of the community is someone that understands the community because you've been in the community, you know what's going on, and you are willing to put yourself on the front line by any means necessary to protect the safety and the space for the community. That's all.
Yes, sir. And I would like to add to that. You gave a very good answer. And I would just like to add to this from our political educational course from the New African Revolutionary National perspective. A vanguard party is the most advanced segment of the national class consciousness of the people, capable of leading the people in the struggle. Capable of leading the people in the struggle or the overthrow of oppressive, exploitative relationships in the building of national independence, self-determination, and socialism. The vanguard party is an expression of the people's will to keep constant contact with the people in order to learn from the people and apply the principle from the people back to the people. Vanguard party.
Right on.
We are
Thanks.
going to get to. We are going to ask you a couple final questions for right now. Spokesman, are you here?
Present.
Go ahead, sir.
How would you guys like to strategically implement a united front?
Well, I'll be frank. It takes consideration and time. A lot of people, have 9 to 5s and have families and have other things that they're doing. So it does require a lot of time. Even though I do work a 40-hour a week job, I think I do 70 hours a week just as a mover and a shaker. So we have a lot of political education classes going on throughout the week. We stay, and what's nice about that, we have doctors and professors and like highly intelligent, educated individuals on there that allow us the platform to be able to gain off their knowledge and share one another's knowledge. So I would say you need to stay in contact, and then we got to be understanding like not everybody's on social media. So that means taking time out of your busy schedule in life to making a phone call to an elderly brother or sister that doesn't go on Facebook. Well, take that time. So like we really it's all a time thing. So like in order to build that, and then maybe Sister Zen, we can follow up with this cadre over here to send them the link to our political education classes. Hermana, maybe we can send we have a lot of political education classes, and just kind of like you afforded me time to have a word. We can invite you all to have some word too, so that you guys can stretch your political arm and share your knowledge with other revolutionary activists that weren't able to make it to tonight's meeting. And I wanted to thank everyone that did make it. And it was short notice, like you said, comrade. But it's so far, I like where it's gone and stuff. And but anyway, to actually do strength is to share strength and share platforms. Like I think somebody said, like if you're all willing to put your guys' email or contact information, or I'm not real tech savvy, but like maybe everybody can contact each other from just this meeting. That's where it is. Strength and unity and all power. That's it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And once again, if everybody could put their email down, make sure we stay in contact. And I would like to give you one last question, ending statement for the people listening. Once again, we have the people on here, but this is going out to the people for them to listen to over and over again. This will be here for them to listen to. Could you give us a final statement of how do you feel about this current time and what direction our people should go, and how we can better, once again, foster unity amongst, of course, Black and Brown, and move towards a better direction, a positive direction?
I think it kind of correlates to what I said initially. We have to stay in communication. So many people get so wrapped up and busy in their day-to-day life schedules, they don't take time to interrelate with one another. And if they do, it's just a simple message. Well, messages can get confused and misunderstood because you don't get the sense of like I'm speaking a voice or a point to be made across. How can we do it? If we stay connected. We have opened up a door, a portal to a share of unity, which is a positive thing today. But how Not like, why would we just stop there? Why won't we continue to stay in communication? We talked today, comrade, Chairman Ghazi, and we can continue to talk in the future. Of course, a lot of us are busy. Totally understand. Usually evening times are the best time to get a hold of me, because with work and all the political education classes I go on to on a weekly basis, it's hard. And but what is important today? We have met different comrades from different organizations that took their time to be here to understand that we have to have a united front. There's no if, ands, or buts about it. We have to have a united front, and this is what we're building here today. And I wanted to say to Comrade Zen, Minister, you always speak so eloquent, and you have so much to offer. Would you like to help us finish this off?
By all means, comrade. Thank you. Yeah, I love that you invited everyone here today to be able to discuss forming a united front. That is something that is so incredibly important. As a revolutionary intercommunalist, we focus on bringing the people together, united under a programmatic unity of serving the people, building up programs to be able to feed people, to be able to do the distribution like what Comrade Joe is doing with the Narcan and needle exchange, to be able to find out all these things that our communities need, perform proper social investigation, and be able to meet those needs in a revolutionary manner, not reformist stuff that is like a band-aid on a severed artery that doesn't really fix anything. That's the kind of shit that has us still dealing with the same issues today as our predecessors did back in the 60s and 70s. We need revolutionary answers, things that replace the need for depending on this system by creating our own. And that's what we aim to build together. Because together we actually have that power, we have that strength. All power.
All power, all power. I would like to thank everybody for coming today. And this is not going to be the last time that we talk to everybody on here, and also Mr. Gonzalez. This is just a checkup to see how everybody's doing as we rotate and see how all other progressive individuals and organizations are doing as well, as we keep this unity and connection, this network going. Let's continue to build, everybody. Free the land, all power to the people. Let's build to win. All power to the people.
Free the land and all power to the people.
All power to the people. Free the land, free the land, free the land.